Europe, a low-budget movie would have much greater impact. The director, Pier Paolo Pasolini, was a 60s Marxist who'd twice been arrested for blasphemy. Yet his version of Matthew's Gospel was not the stridently irreverent movie that the church had expected. With typical audacity, Pasolini offered the part of Jesus to a Spanish student who'd never acted before.
I refused instantaneously. I thought that movies were not serious. Resistance, fighting fascism, was serious, and I had no time to waste.
Non crediate che io sia venuto a portare pace sulla terra. Io non sono venuto a portare la pace, ma la spada, perché sono venuto a dividere l'uomo dal padre suo, e la figliola dalla madre sua, e la nuora dalla suocera sua.
Pasolini directed me basically in two different ways. One, when I had to talk to the bad guys, to the mean people, the Pharisees, where he was telling me to forget about what happened 2,000 years ago. Imagine that these kind of people would be the butchers or the political police in Franco's times, the bourgeoisie behind fascism, and I didn't have to make any effort to play angry, because I was.
Vattene lontano da me, Satana! Tu mi sei di scandalo, perché pensi come gli uomini, non come Dio.
After playing in a movie that got 2 international Catholic prizes, that was projected officially to the Pope and the Cardinals in Rome in 1964, late 1964, I was accused in Spain of having participated in a movie of communist propaganda. So they took my passport away. I was punished for 15 months in the military service in the Pyrenees. I was thrown out of the university for a year. I had to go to Paris to study, and so on.
I think it's a difficult film, partly because he seems to have gone for a kind of Brechtian style. By this I mean that the scenes are very fragmentary. It's a kind of epic narrating style without necessarily a strong forward momentum. It has a slightly choppy feel to it.
I think his goal was to bring within reach of everybody an epical figure, to give them back to this kind of people that had this figure alienated for centuries to them. When Christ became a part of the almighty church, used politically, used ideology in an ideological way, he wanted to give them back, give the plain people back this figure that had absolutely nothing to do with the ideological Jesus Christ. I sympathize with this a lot.
Prepare ye the way of the Lord.
Godspell was the romp. It was all about all the things that you love. Old movies, old Broadway musicals, all those silly, childish things. You had to have a childish imagination to really enjoy it. It was have a good time because a Jesus has come and he's fun to be with and his message is great and we're all 60s people, and let's join together and have a party.
I remember very distinctly when Godspell was made, the producers were terrified that the churches would attack it, that they would say it was irreverent, showing Jesus Christ as a clown would be thought of as sacrilegious. Instead, what happened was as soon as the musical was produced, and then later the movie, busloads of children from the parochial schools were brought in by the nuns to see this picture. Every church youth group had to go and see it. The songs were used in churches and still are used in churches.
For the first time, the screen Jesus was a contemporary figure with a 70s afro and a bottom-of-the-bill soft shoe routine.
Every depiction of Jesus is both, in one sense, historical and contemporary. It has to be. That is historical in that it has to hook in some way to the original story that we have in the Gospels, or it wouldn't be recognizable as Jesus. But it has to be contemporary, and I mean contemporary in a very, very real sense. It's got to really speak the language of that period, even that decade, if you will. So when you look back now at Superstar or Godspell, already they look a little antique.
Unfortunately, when the film hit the screens in 1973, the whole togetherness, love-in period was over. And what the audience seemed to want then was the French Connection and The Exorcist. And it was rather too ideal and too innocent for the time. That 60s time was over.